Hello, brave homesteaders and YouTube community as a whole. There's been a lot of talk on the group, Florida Urban Homesteading Nonprofit on Facebook, about how to restore cast iron. A lot of us go to, yard sales, estate sales, flea markets. Some of us even have some of this cast iron handed down to us, and it comes in maybe less than spectacular quality and shape. The two lids that you see here, one is on its way to being restored. It's a 10.5-inch lid, and then the other one right there is not even started to be restored. It's covered in rust. There's no pitting that I can see on it, but we want to go ahead and make something like that into what you see right there on the right. We're going to create an electrolysis tank, build one up. I'll show you the materials that we're going to use, and we'll go ahead and get it all built up and then run a piece of cast iron through it to make sure that everybody can see the whole process. The electrolysis is the easiest way I've found to strip a piece of cast iron back to bare metal and get the seasoning process started. I've had the fortunate experience to have some cast iron given to me, and I've been using this electrolysis process for right on about 4 or 5 months now with spectacular results. So the piece we're going to be restoring is going to be this small little 4.5-inch skillet. It even has some dirt on it, but you can see that it's got a great amount of rust on it everywhere, even on the back. So we're going to go and build an electrolysis tank to get this soaking. We'll soak it for 24 hours. After it's done, clean it all up, and then you'll be able to see the process from this to back to bare cast metal. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll get you the material list, and then we'll get ready to build. Here are all the pieces you're going to need to get this etank put together. Everything here short of the battery charger and the piece of green wire there that I had local was acquired at Home Depot. Total cost for everything here, including a piece of 1 by 2 by 4 feet long, that's not on the table here, probably around $85 to $90, depending on what kind of prices you have at your hardware stores. So here we have 2 pieces of 12-inch by 24-inch steel. I pre-drilled a hole in the top to attach the wire. What you're looking for here is nothing galvanized, no brass, no copper, no anything like that at all. You want this to be just a plain old piece of steel. Some people use stainless steel. After that, here we have the S-hooks that we're going to use in conjoint with these I-hooks here. This I-hook will go into the piece of wood. This hook will go onto the I-hook, which the other side will go onto the piece of cast iron. Right here we have some small 1/2-inch bolts with nuts with them, and these washers here, and those two will be used to join these 2 pieces of steel with that wire, green wire right there. I'm using a stranded number 12 wire to go through here. You want to make sure that you get really good connection between the pieces of steel and that wire. I've got 4 zip ties that are just going to be used to attach the wire underneath this lip to attach the 2 plates. And then I got a manual, this is a 2 amp, 6 amp manual battery charger. You want to make sure that you have a manual battery charger as opposed to an automatic battery charger, because the automatic ones will shut off during the time you're actually using electrolysis. These manual battery chargers turn off when you turn them off. This one here is 6 volt, 12 volt, anywhere from 2 amp to 6 amp. I use this for my etank as well, and I can clean any piece of cast iron in almost any condition in about 24 hours tops. This is one of those set it and forget it type things. So we'll go ahead and start the assembly on this tank. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put this etank together. These are all the same parts that we had in the last segment of the video. We've got our bolt, our nut, the 2 washers for each one of the anodes. We've got our I-hook and the 2 hooks that we could potentially use to hang the piece of cast iron. We've got our 12-inch by 24-inch steel anodes on here. I've gone ahead and attached the wire to the outside of the tote. This tote is a 17-gallon hard plastic tote. It's got some nice holes here, so I went ahead, just for easy cable management, I went ahead and zip tied them all down through. For the wire we're using, it is a stranded wire. what I've done is I've made a U out of the wire. I split the strands in half and made a U, and what's going to happen is when we put them on the bolt, it's going to go ahead and go around both sides of the bolt, get a better connection on there. But we'll go ahead and get that done right away here. So, like I said, these anodes are 1 foot by 2 foot. They are steel, no galvanized, no copper, no brass, no bronze. Some folks do use stainless. I've pre-drilled a hole on the top just to make it so we can put the bolt and nut and the washers through here. These anodes will be positively charged. The piece of cast iron will be negatively charged, and that's what starts the electrolysis process. A lot of people use different things for anodes. The rule of thumb is you really want as much surface area as possible. So if you have a pan, a cast iron pan that sits here between the two anodes, you want as much surface area to pull all that rust towards the anodes that you can get. Some people use rebar. What they'll do is they'll put a rebar at every corner and attach them with a wire. Some people make different type cages or grids that fit inside the tub, so they get a full 360-degree coverage. We're just going to go ahead and do 2 anodes, one on one side and one on the other here, but nothing says that you couldn't put potentially a 3rd or a 4th anode to get full 360-degree coverage. So we'll start with the first piece here. We'll grab our bolt, we'll grab one washer, put it through one side here, and we'll set it in. We'll put our copper through, we'll grab the other washer and the nut. We'll go ahead and connect this to get a really, really nice tight connection. My wrench here and my screwdriver, and we'll go ahead and tighten this down as tight as it'll go. Alright, so that's one side done there. We'll wrap it around and do the other side at the same time. Again, one bolt, the washer, through. Put the wire around both sides of the bolt. Other washer. This gives you the best possible connection. You're not going to have any kind of loose connections that will cause any kind of arcing when you connect your battery charger doing it this way. Alright, so those are on there about as tight as they can be. So now we've got our 2 anodes already set in. We're going to move this to the back. For our centerpiece, we're going to use a piece of 1 by 4 by 4. I've already pre-drilled the center hole for our eyelet. So we'll go ahead and get that cranked down as far as we can. Maybe one more. There we go. So we have the screw part that sticks out the other end, and what we'll do is we'll connect the negative charger, the negative lead to here to negatively charge the cast iron. So from here, what we do is we can put let's go ahead and just straighten it out one more time. There we go. We can put a hook on here, and then from here we can put our piece of cast iron. And that's going to hang like that, and so when it comes to the cast iron tub, this piece will sit, or the electrolysis tank, this piece will sit right there, and the piece is now suspended in what's going to be our electrolysis solution. So let's go ahead and take that down. You could put potentially 3 or 4 or 5 or however many holes in here, and depending on how many pieces you want to do. Just keep in mind that you will have to connect all of the pieces together. That way you have one connection point for the negative charge. You might also need to put 2 holes, one here and one here, if you have a long piece and you've got to suspend both sides. But that is the basic construction of the electrolysis tank. People get really creative with these. Some folks will fabricate their own steel tanks and make the entire tank the positive side, the positive anode, or they'll get a stainless tank. I've seen these made out of IBC totes. So, you know, you're talking about 250 to 275 gallons of fluid, of liquid that they use. So you can imagine the cast iron they could put in there. Some folks use big tall garbage cans if they want something a piece that's really deep. The sky's the limit. It's just basically your imagination. The parts of the construction are still, you need a tank to hold water that is rigid. If you do get some kind of Rubbermaid totes, the soft totes, you might want to double up, triple up. That way when you put water in it, it doesn't spread out. So you need a tub, you need anodes to positively charge, and a way to connect them if you're using more than one. And then you need a way to suspend the cast iron inside the electrolysis solution to negatively charge. We'll go ahead and get this all filled up, and we'll start with suspending the piece, and we'll go from there. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and create the solution for the electrolysis tank. I've already filled the tote with about 15 gallons of water. This is just straight tap water. You can use whatever you want. We have well water here. I don't know the effects of city water with all the chemicals they have in it. But what you're going to need here, this is Arm & Hammer Super Washing Soda. So this is not baking soda. You have to get this in the laundry aisle. We get it at Publix. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. This stuff is sodium carbonate. We're going to put 3 tablespoons per gallon inside here. What this does is this helps the water conduct electricity to allow the electrolysis process to happen. So with that, 3 times 15 is 45, so we're looking at 2.8 cups, so we'll just go ahead and put 3 cups in the solution here. There's 1. There we go. There's 2. And we'll call that 0.8. So we'll go ahead and dump this in here, and we'll stir it up some just to try to get it to dissolve inside the water. There we go. Everything looks nice and mixed. Alright, so that's all done. Next step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and suspend our piece of cast iron. And here we go. Here's our board again with the eyelet, the hook. And there is our piece of cast iron. So we're going to go ahead and set that right in the solution. Just need to pull it up a little bit, get it right in the middle. Alright. There she goes. She's sitting right in there. Alright, so this is the manual battery charger. I picked this up for O'Reilly's. I think it was about $45. Just to revisit, you want a manual battery charger, not an automatic battery charger. The automatic battery chargers will shut off during the electrolysis process. And just it makes it to the point where it can't be used. This is a 12 volt, either 2 amp or 6 amp. We're going to set it on the 12 volt 6 amp setting. With this electrolysis, you want to make sure that you leave the battery charger unplugged until you have your connections made. You don't want to arc anything or have any kind of shocks whatsoever. So what I do is I make sure that I hook up the ends first, and then I go ahead and plug in the battery charger. That way, if something does happen, arc or something's wrong, I'm far enough away from the tank and from the battery charger to cause any kind of damage or any kind of injury. So again, here is our 2 anodes with the wire connecting both of them. We're going to go ahead and connect the positive side to that. So that is going to positively charge this anode through the wire to this other anode on the other side. And then we are going to negatively charge the cast iron. This screw goes down to that eyelet, goes down to that hook, which goes right onto the piece of cast iron. So with that being said, let's go ahead and plug her in. You can hear the battery charger kick on, and we're almost about ready to get bubbles down there. I'll see if I can get the camera closer inside once she starts bubbling up real good, so you can see exactly what's happening. So right now this is live. You don't want to go touching the connection points, the anodes, or the water. When you go ahead and check your pans and make sure that it's done, you do the reverse process. You go to the outlet, the wall plug, you unplug it, and then you remove your connection points from the battery charger. Seems like everything is going good. You want to do this in a well-ventilated area. This is inside, but this building is well-ventilated with vents and fans and everything else. There is a gas that is created by this process. I don't think it's extremely harmful, but just to be safe, my other electrolysis tank is in a 4x6 doghouse with a big open grate on the front and a big gate on the back. That way any kind of airflow just passes right through it. So we'll go ahead and let this sit. I'll see if I can't move the camera over here so you can get a good view of the pan and what it's doing. Okay, so it's been about 2 minutes here, and I was able to get the camera off the tripod. But here you can see the piece of cast iron on the hook, and you can see the water, and between the anode and the pan, you can kind of see the bubbling going on there. That is the electrolysis process working. We're going to go ahead and leave this pan in here for a good 24 hours. Then we'll pull her out, rub her down, and see exactly what she looks like. Just a tip here. If you fill the water before you put your pan in, you can see a little bit of the cast iron here sticking out of the water. You want to make sure that that pan or whatever piece you are that's inside of it, you want to make sure that is completely covered. So I am going to add a little bit of water in here just to make sure that the water level goes completely above the handle of that pan. And then we'll let this sit and revisit this in about 24 hours. Alright, so this has been soaking in this e-tank for about 20 hours now. It's one of the smaller skillets, so I thought we'd go ahead and take a look and see what she looks like now after just 20 hours in here. Remember, when dealing with this battery charger, you want to make sure before we touch any of the leads, from the negative side or to the anodes, that we unplug this at the outlet side. So we'll do that right now. There she is. She's unplugged. Needle went down to the bottom. We'll go ahead and remove the negative lead and the positive lead. Set those off to the side. Alright, if you remember what this pan looked like, completely covered in rust. Know for a fact that there was a bunch of gunk underneath that pan, underneath that rust. So let's take a look after 20 hours what this pan looks like. Alright, so let's go ahead and set this to the side. Alright, now we'll get a rag here just to dry her off a little bit, get some of that sheen off. You will get some black on your rag when you first come through and on your hands. That's just the remaining bit of gunk that's on here. If you go back over it with a Brillo pad or two, you'll clean this right up and get it right back down to bare metal. So if you remember, this was completely covered in rust, every last little bit of it. And now, for the most part, we're down to bare metal almost everywhere. The back a little less. I suspect that the one anode was getting more juice than the other. And there's ways to rectify that. But some work with a Brillo pad, and this one will be ready to season. We'll probably be making another video in the next coming weeks. We'll probably use this exact same pan skillet, and we'll go ahead about how to strip it down, rest of the bare metal, and how to season it, just so you get a complete run from rusty piece of cast iron that you might have found in somebody's yard to something you can throw on the stove and use. Alright, so we'll set that aside, put this down. I want to show you guys what happens to these anodes. So here, if you take a look at that, all that gunk, all that rust, everything just come off the pan that we just had, and it's actually built up on the anode here. With these anodes being how large they are, you could turn it upside down, stick it back in. You could actually reuse this. This still has a lot of use left to it, and you can use the other side. The other side's going to be pretty well clean. There we go. Let's take a look. There's another one. This one obviously had more juice going to it. That's where we connected the positive side, and you can see the buildup on here, and it is just wiping off of there. So that is amazing if you stop and consider all that was on that little cast iron skillet, and with just 20 hours time, one of those set it and forget it type things, we got a skillet that we can just get back to Nice bare metal to be seasoned, and make some eggs on the stove. So if you want to have a conversation about this, you can go ahead and check us out on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. It is a closed group. It's Florida Urban Homesteading Nonprofit. We also have a public page under the same name. Or you can go ahead and check us out at www.floridaurbanhomesteading.org.